Talking about indie fantasy? Yeah, I think I can do that. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, for the first time in quite some time, I'm going to be doing a tag because I was recently tagged in the Indie Fantasy Reader tag by Andrew from Andrew Specifically Reads. And while I do definitely do a mix of indie and like older trad pub stuff and some newer stuff too, like a mix in. I've really enjoyed a lot of indie fantasy, so there's definitely plenty that I can talk about with this. So I thought this seemed like a great tag to do and jump in and do a tag for the first time in a while. So let's get started with what got me into reading indie fantasy. And here, probably not much of a surprise, but BookTube, Discord, just talking to people and just hearing about all these great books that I wanted to check out. For me, it wasn't even really like, oh, you should definitely specifically check out indie fantasy. It was just, I hear people going on like, oh my gosh, this book is so good, happens to be indie, and so I kind of just organically started trying some, and that's where I first got started. It was kind of slower at first because I was just trying things as I heard about them and had a lot of other stuff. And then as I've gotten more and more into BookTube, I have a huge backlog of indie stuff to get to that I've just been interested, that I've heard about, and then also with review copies being sent as well. I've tried out a lot of stuff that way as well. So it's just really, I kept hearing about a lot of great books, things I wanted to try, and so that's where I generally started. Question 2 is, what is my favorite thing about indie fantasy? And I have to say, I feel like with when it's something coming independent, it's not going through a publisher, it does allow for some more variety and some more like niche stuff, as well as innovation, trying things, taking risks, because well, that's not always the case. I feel like with a lot of traditionally published stuff, you're seeing a lot of the same authors writing the same kinds of things, or you'll get new authors, but it's just writing something that feels similar. And I've had that where there's a new hyped book where publishers are really marketing it, and I read it, and I'm just like, this is kind of just, I feel like this is just similar to insert other popular book here. And so while I still have had plenty of stuff that I've really enjoyed, I just feel like with indie, there's nobody telling you like, oh no, you should stick a little closer to the tried and true formula, or try to, compare and make your book similar to these other things that have sold. It's just people that are writing what they're passionate about, the story that they really want to tell. And so I feel like there's a bit more freedom there. And that's kind of what I've enjoyed, because I have found some indie books that I loved and some of my favorites that I feel like would be unlikely to ever be traditionally published, even if the authors were going for that, which not all are, because of the fact that it's the type of thing that I know I love, and there are definitely other people out there, but it's not going after like, oh, what's the big thing that's selling? It's just going after what they want to write and the story that they want to tell. And so that's something I've really enjoyed about indie that I've read so far. Number 3 is, what is my favorite indie fantasy book or series? Some of these prompts were actually really hard, but this one has to be the Collation Saga by Andrew D. Meredith. This is one that I was thinking about too when I said kind of niche, because these are just like my exact taste, and I really, really love them. They're fantastic, and it fits so well, and is something that I love that I can get these, and also pretty quickly because they're being indie published as well. So I love Andrew D. Meredith, everything he's written, but this series I've just fallen in love with. I just can't get enough. I've enjoyed these books so much. They just fit what I want so well. It's one of those things where I feel like I didn't know I could find like a series that was just doing exactly what I wanted. And there have been some others too that I found, around, but this is one where it's just kind of things that I like. It has in spades, so really, really fantastic series. I definitely recommend checking out. Very epic, can be a little bit of a slow burn, which I enjoy as well, but it does just a fantastic job of world building as you go. Great characters and these overarching plots, and all the discussion, like the political maneuvering between religious organizations and that type of thing, has great action as well too at points, even though that's not usually like the huge focus. So just does a lot of great things, and super interesting world and setting and characters, and a series that I love. I cannot wait to continue. I just recently read the 3rd book, and I just can't wait for the 4th. So that one worked pretty well. Number 4 is, what is one high priority indie fantasy on my TBR? So I have so many. because I have a lot of I've read a fair few, but I also have a lot of other indie books that I've heard great things about. I also have a lot of review copies I need to get to. One that's kind of partway through both, but that I'm really eagerly looking forward to is No Safe Haven, which is the sequel to No Heart for a Thief by James Lloyd Doolin. And I love this book. This was really, really great. I had a fantastic time with it. I originally got an e-arc of this, and I do have an e-arc of No Safe Haven too. I think it actually, though, it might be out by now, or I think coming, because I haven't had a chance to get to it yet, but it's one that I really, really want to get to, and was going to be on my TBR anyway, so that's why I was super happy when the author offered to send an e-arc, because I'm like, yes, because I was going to read it no matter what. I'm really excited to get to it. I've heard great things. So that was definitely one that's high on my TBR. This book was just, it had some unique things with the magic system, and it had some things that were a bit familiar with the topics that it's dealing with, but I thought it did it in a really great way. And also just something about it just pulled me in almost immediately. And I just, I really enjoyed the dual storytelling, the characters, and what was being set up, and the way that these things were being explored. And just the idea, too, it's the Malitu series is the series name. And it's the idea that there's these magic systems, but then there's another type of magic where somebody can have the power to take magic from others, and it's deemed to be just super evil. And so then focusing on a character who has that, and the way that their life works for that, is really, really interesting when they are kind of persecuted by their own people, as well as the people that are persecuting them in general. And so a lot of really interesting exploration, something I really enjoyed, and I'm excited to continue. Next up is, where do I find out about indie fantasy books? So for me, I would say both, BookTube and Discord, especially I'm constantly hearing about new things in Discord, or just, Andrew from Andrew Specifically Reads, who tagged me here, because Andrew is responsible for such a huge amount of my TBR, and I'm pretty sure, probably 75% of my current Amazon wish list is indie stuff that Andrew just told me to add. I don't even know a lot about some of it. It's just he's like, oh, this, that. Because whenever I'm low, I'm just like, all right, tell me another list of stuff I need to add to put on my list to eventually get to. And he's always got plenty. So he adds a ton of indie to my list, because he's very indie focused on this channel, and so that ends up being quite a lot of where I find stuff, and just stuff I hear about in general, or when authors reach out to me as well too. I've found a lot of great things that have been sent to me as review copies that have become favorites, so that definitely can happen also. Number 6 then, what book would I recommend to someone just starting to read indie fantasy? So there's a lot of options there, and that's a loaded question. And I'm taking that as you're already a fantasy reader, but you want to try some indie, and you've just mostly been reading traditionally published. So I picked several things here. I'm trying not to repeat book or series here, by the way, either. So all of the things I've talked about I think are great options, but I tried to pick some different stuff for this one. So we'll do a few. First one I'll mention, if you are a grimdark fan, and you like that kind of thing, I definitely recommend We Men of Ash and Shadow by H.L. Tinsley. This is just for me, this personifies what grimdark is when I think about it, where it's set in a very grim city, with all of the characters are gray. There's no good guys here, and it's just this dirty, dark city. It doesn't go incredibly nihilistic with it like I know some do, but it's also just that feeling. It's also considered a gas lamp fantasy as well. But when I think about it, I think about this. So I think if you've read grimdark, that kind of thing, and want to try something indie, this would be a great option. There's another author too, but we'll get to that book later. I used it for another prop, so I didn't want to repeat. If you like old school kind of 80s fantasy, that type of thing, highly recommend Protectors of Brittany as the first 2 books, Becoming a Druid and To Speak with Elders. These are great, and they just have that really, really old school 80s feel. This is the kind of thing that reading these, if you told me they were published in the 80s, I would 100% believe you. Not in a bad way, though. They don't feel aged. They just have the spirit of those kinds of books, which is something that I've really enjoyed a lot. So if you want to try something like that, because you don't really get a ton of stuff written today like that either, goes back to, just writing what you want when you're independently published. works out pretty well, so that'd be a good one. If you're looking for more of like a little bit slower, politically driven type of thing that's just super polished, I would say A Drowned Kingdom by P.L. Stewart would be a great option there. I still need to continue this one. I have the next 2 books, but this was really enjoyable and did some different kinds of things, but is just a lot of the kind of the politics and the different things going on with the character and exploration of when you have like an empire falling and trying to set up a new thing, the differences between gods as cultures clash, that kind of thing. You get a ton of that in here. Really, really interesting, and I'm really excited to continue this series as well. So those are some great options. And then if you're looking for something that's just kind of totally different, and also just an exploration and unique, another one I'd recommend is the Voidwalker collection by Derek Bailey. This is partly takes place in just everyday our world with a character going through the struggles in his life, and then when he sleeps, he goes to this mysterious manor where there's an increasingly different and kind of escalating fantasy type of story going on as well. Super unique. I haven't read anything quite like this, and it's another one I enjoy. Derek Bailey's another who just kind of writes what he wants to write. All of this stuff is really different, and I've enjoyed all of it, but this was a really good one, so one I'd put on there as well. So those are some really different things depending on what kind of thing you're looking for. I think if you like the description of any of those, definitely check them out. So there's so much variety with indie, which is why it's hard to narrow it down, and that's kind of why I chose some that I really enjoy to talk about there as well. And then the next one is what is my favorite indie fantasy cover. This was quite difficult because I have another one I'm using for a different prompt still down here, and there's Dragon Mage over there, which has a cover that I love. I love the new Gloves of Eons cover from Andrew D. Meredith, so there's a lot, and many more I didn't mention that are great. I feel like I had to go with An End to Sorrow, though, by Michael R. Fletcher. I love this cover so much with the dragon and the flaming sword and just the destruction. Everything about this I absolutely love. Also a fantastic trilogy, the Obsidian Path trilogy. I'm still reading more of Fletcher's stuff, and I've really enjoyed it, but this trilogy was fantastic. It's super different. This is definitely kind of like grimdarky with horror elements, with all kinds of other stuff going on. There were so many twists and turns you won't see coming, and the way he ended the trilogy, still one of the boldest moves. Once again, I just really, really, really great trilogy, and I waited to talk about it till now because I wanted to use it for this cover one because it's just a fantastic cover. Such a cool and unique series, and Fletcher is another. He writes just some of the strangest stuff that I've read, but it's so compelling and so enjoyable to read as well. So a lot of great stuff from him as an author also, for sure. And then we have the question number 8. Do I approach indie reading and reviewing differently? So I would say kind of, but also not really. I try not to very much. And this is, I'm reminded too, Tori from Tori Talks did a great video about reviewing indie, which I will link down below because she does a fantastic job kind of laying out why you really shouldn't. I feel like for me, before the difference is before, if I came across a book, it was just me. I came across a book, whether it's indie or traditionally published, and I'm going to talk about it. I do feel like nowadays, when I'm getting a review copy, or especially when I'm reading books from people that I've interacted with, that I've talked to, that I've gotten to know, it is something where it can be a little bit harder to do a review, especially if it's something negative. I've interacted and talked to authors before. And there are some authors that they're great people. I really like them. I love talking to them. May not have liked their book though, and that's kind of hard because I'm not going to lie or just pretend that I liked a book. I do think negative reviews are still important, and if I give a review, tell you what I didn't like about a book, well, if you're also somebody who's not going to like that book, you won't then check it out, and then you won't give more negative reviews to an indie book that needs its reviews. And so it's kind of one of those things where I do feel like it's important, even if I don't like a book, but I try to make sure that I'm being very constructive and just doing everything I can to still explain why it might work for you. If I'm reading a book that's traditionally published, especially if it's popular, I might be a little bit more liberal with my negative comments. I might be a little less constructive with my criticisms. I still always try to be constructive, but like there are a couple of books that I read that they're immensely popular. They're very well known. People love them, and I unashamedly hate them. There's a few books like that, and I'm a little bit more willing to just be like, I hate this. I hate this a lot. Why do people like this when it's that kind of thing? Because I'm not hurting anything. So I try to keep in mind when I'm reading an indie book that's smaller that. But I also I had just last week. When this will be coming out, I had an indie book that I read that I didn't care for, and I went through what I hope is a very thoughtful review with my critiques and the things that I didn't like and talking through. And so like I still will do it because I don't want to be disingenuous. I am very clear with review copies that I am in no way guaranteeing a positive review, that I will be honest and try to be constructive though if I do have criticisms. And that's what I do, and people are usually very understanding. I've had people, I've given their book a negative review, they've been cool with it. I've interacted with them, and it's okay. It's not every book is for everyone, but so yeah, I try to be consistent, but also just keep in mind what I'm reviewing. I guess is my long-winded answer to that one. This is a tag video. This is getting very long. Number 9, we're almost done. What is an upcoming indie fantasy release that I am looking forward to? So I don't know when specifically it's coming out off the top of my head, but I am greatly looking forward to Pillars of the Sky by Mark Timoney, which is the sequel to The Blood of the Spear. This is another one definitely that was in line for the cover question as well, but I was using it for this. I really enjoyed this book. Blood of the Spear is another one. It just kind of has a classic type of fantasy story, but a little bit more modern and updated in some areas. Just a beautiful book in general too. I love this naked hardcover under here as well too. So another one that I'm really looking forward to continuing, and a great series to check out. I kind of I think I said, do you like classic style fantasy but wish it would get to the point? I think was my opening for my review of this, because it moves very quickly compared to some of the stuff that is like inspiration here, because this is like very Wheel of Time inspired. I think there's some Words of Light and Shadow, Janny Wirtz inspired. So you have a lot of classic style fantasy elements, but it's moving much quicker than you usually get with those types of things, and so he's able to accomplish a lot in this book, and I'm really excited to continue with this series as well. And so number 11, I'm sorry, I skipped one. 10, what indie author would I choose to write my story? So I like to overthink these things, and I was trying to think about it, because I'm like, many of these authors, I'm like, I don't know that I would want them writing my story, because the worlds are not places that I would really want to be in. So I was trying to think, and I'm like, who? And I had the perfect answer, but he's not technically indie anymore because he's published now. I was gonna say Travis Baldree because he writes the cozy stuff, and I'm like, then that way, write me a nice, cozy, happy story. I don't necessarily like to read those that much, but I feel like that would be a good thing to live in. But so I think out of what I picked here, I feel like I'm gonna say Andrew D. Meredith. I feel like he would not torture me too badly with it, but I'm like, that's always a hard one. The like, what fantasy world would you want to be in or be written by? So I'm gonna trust Andrew D. Meredith. Don't kill me or make me go through anything too terrible, hopefully. But we'll see how that goes. That's what I'll go with here. Then 11 now is, what is an indie fantasy that more people need to read? And I feel like I've pretty much talked about nothing but indie fantasy that I love and that more people should read. A lot of these are not the most well-known or popular. Some of them are more well-known than others, but really I would say just read indie in general. And it's the way I look at it too is don't inside. So I'm trying to say this, so it doesn't sound like something I don't mean, but it doesn't necessarily matter about the difference between indie and trad pub to me. There is so much indie, and it's the same quality as traditionally published work. Yeah, there's some stuff that might not necessarily be, but look for something that you're interested in. Look for topics you're interested in and see what options there are, because especially if you like things that are a little bit more niche, you're a lot more likely to find books that are going to fit in well for indie than you are in traditionally published, because you have a lot more variety, I feel like, in the type of thing. So just look for what kind of book you want to read, And then when you're looking for options, just include some indie ones too, or ask around, ask on Discord. You can try if you've got like a type of book you want to know. That'd be a great video, actually. If there's a type of book you're looking for, a type of story, and then ask for indie suggestions, just because there's a lot. And you know, I talk about things that I like and that I recommend. So any of these would be great. But I think looking for what do I want to read. What are some indie options that fit into that as well? Because you will probably find some. There's an indie book for just about everything. Because there's the barrier to entry is a lot lower. And so you can get all kinds of stories that you might not have gotten because maybe they're not mainstream enough, or they're not as close to the things that have already been selling really well, that type of thing. You don't really have those problems. You have people writing about what they're passionate about and getting it out to you. So yeah, check out more indie stuff. So the last one is tagging people. And I'm so out of practice, I do not prepare people to tag. So I'm not going to tag anyone. But anyway, if you're watching and want to talk about some indie books, I think this was a fun tag to do. And I probably talked too much about a lot of the answers, but I have a lot of indie stuff that I have loved and that I like to talk about. And I really like talking about things that I've loved. So it's a great one. So if you're watching this and haven't done this, you consider yourself tagged. Go ahead and do this one and go from there. That's it for this one, though. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether any of these books, other books, really anything at all. It is a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you. And, of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.